Recently, I had a question in my chat about like why I'm streaming and sort of the path that led me to streaming. So I quickly wanted to just like explain that and discuss it a little bit. So first, let's talk about like the path to streaming. I did a PhD in theoretical chemistry. During that PhD, I wrote a lot of code that was very hard for me to understand. I constantly bumped up against things that like I just didn't know how to engineer very well. I wasn't a software engineer, right? I was a theoretical chemist, and so I started thinking like, okay, how can I become a better software engineer such that I can do science better? That was kind of the original idea, and that was okay for a while. And I practiced different programming languages. So like I first started with Fortran, and then I did like a bunch of C++, and then I did a bunch of Python. And so I kind of like tried to get really good at those things. But I kept bumping up into this issue where I found it extremely difficult to express the mathematics that I was trying to do in like the theory in the code. And I just found it really frustrating to like convert these things. And so I kept thinking like there must be a better way to do software engineering. And I think better just means like more natural to the way that I wanted to express um, functions, equations, mathematics in code. And so I spent like a bunch of time like looking around, and I eventually discovered like declarative and functional programming. Okay. So I was finishing up my PhD at this point and moving on into a high performance computing role where I didn't really need too much of the declarative and functional programming, but I discovered Scala specifically to start. And so I started reading about Scala probably like the first year into my job out of the PhD, and it didn't click with me. But through Scala, I discovered Haskell. Okay, and Haskell is kind of where I would say my entire life changed. I became obsessed with learning Haskell. Like it made so much more sense to me, and it really clicked with the way my brain works. So there is some stuff with Haskell that is like tough. For example, I still find recursive functions pretty hard. I find recursive data types even harder. Not necessarily trees, but like free monads and continuation passing. That kind of stuff is still very hard. Um, but yeah, like I found Haskell and I was just obsessed with it. Like I really, really loved it. And so I decided to start streaming because I wanted to like spend time learning Haskell. And so that has kind of morphed into I guess, almost 3 year streaming career. I don't make any money doing this, but like I really enjoy doing the streaming. So what do I like to stream? I like to learn. My whole goal with streaming is to become a better software engineer. That's really what I want to do these days. And through streaming, I was actually able to pick up a job doing software engineering. So that's where I switched careers. And the career switch was really like I had reached a point in my previous job where it's just like there's no way to go any higher. Like I peaked, I guess. Like the only way I could have gone any higher in my previous job is like joining administration and moving away from engineering and doing the things I was interested in. So it just didn't make sense for me to stay, and so I switched to a software engineering role where I write Haskell every day. And so yeah, I just like all I want to do is become a better software engineer. So what you're going to see on this stream is me completing books. So some of the books that we're sort of interested in the future are this book. So like I would love to become better at domain modeling. That's something that's very interesting to me. This book is particularly in F sharp, but yeah, like that's kind of the point. Now, someday in the future, in the probably distant future at this point, I would really like to circle back and go back to like the theoretical chemistry that I was trying to, the problems I was trying to solve, and see if they're actually easier with functional programming. Like I've not gotten back to loop around. That's always going to be a goal of mine. But I find it really difficult to do on stream because it's really, really hard stuff. So anyway, that's kind of like the background of me, why my stream exists, and sort of where it's going.